child, it's your girl. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're not familiar with my channel, I've gotten in the habit of doing a small review / commentary of a documentary that I've completely become obsessed with. I also like to imbibe a lovely libation in the form of an IPA. And today's IPA of the day, IPA of the day is Hopium. It's from Winston-Salem, North Kakalaki. And if you don't know what Kakalaki is, that's North Carolina. I believe the name of their company is Foothills Brewing. And it's, like I said, it's out of Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem. I'm going to be drinking this while I talk to you, or at least trying to. I don't think I've really actually shared with you the reason why I love IPAs, other than the beautiful cans and the character. There's a little bit more character in IPAs than there are regular run-of-the-mill beers. They're also a little bit more high octane, if you know what I mean. So that means they get you there a little quicker than other beers do, so you don't have to drink as much if you're trying to feel a certain way. I am in no way, shape, or form pushing that, but if you feel that way on a certain day and you're grown and you're legal, I mean, what can I do? Anyway, let's do this. This is my commentary on the third episode of The Cult of the Family on the Starz Network. The cult leader, her name was Ann Hamilton Byrne, and this is the third installment. And this episode picks up directly or exactly where the second one left off. The task force that was appointed the task of bringing the family down, they've been given funds by Parliament, and they've been given the go-ahead to get a plan in order and bring them down. And so enter my favorite man on the planet right now, Lex DeMann. And yes, that is the correct pronunciation of his name. I looked it up, I found it out, I listened very carefully to the documentary this time, and that is what his name is. Okay, now before I go any further, this documentary in total was directed by Rosie Jones. Now, Rosie, you did an excellent job. There are a few things that I got a couple bones to pick with you. Just a few. Other than that, you did an amazing job with this, but we'll get into that later. I digress. Moving on. Enter Peter Kibby. He was the member of the sect, as well as everyone else. But now he was a solicitor. Now, I believe in Australia, a solicitor would be along the lines of a lawyer, basically. So he took care of all of Ann Hamilton and William Byrne's documents and how they did all these adoptions. He handled all of the paperwork, which he made them illegal / illegal. Yeah. But at this point in his life, he felt very, very upset with the whole situation. He felt like he had been taken advantage of. He had heard about all the things that had gone on with the children. He was just very upset, and he was ready to sing like a bird. Okay. He actually sat down with Lex DeMann every day for 3 months in order to go through all of the documents and all of the paperwork in order to help the authorities to bring Ann Hamilton Byrne and William down. That is some commitment. After about a couple of days, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Can y'all just go pick them up? The thing about Peter that came out in the documentary was that he had obsessive compulsive disorder, but he had a very, very severe case. So severe that on some days, every day, he would take at least 4 to 5 showers in the morning before leaving his home. He was so disturbed by what happened that he made it a point to go to the police office every single day. At this point, Lex DeMann was appointed senior investigator over the whole task force, and he was allotted 12 months to bring the case to completion. I can't stop looking at my nails because it's been so long since I've had nails, and they look so good. I'm so happy. Okay. I'm a girl. During the inspection of the documents that Peter had, it came out that Ann Hamilton Byrne had been, not only had she lied about multiple births of her own, but she'd also altered birth certificates and made it seem like some children were twins or triplets, or that they were different nationalities than what they actually were. That's crazy. A warrant was sent out for extradition of Ann and Bill. Ann and Bill were charged with perjury and conspiracy to defraud. You in trouble, trouble. Now we cut back to Sexy Lexi, who is actively trying to find these and he can't. They are actually like MIA. No one knows exactly where they are. They knew that they were probably in between the US or England, but they could not pinpoint where they were. Lex DeMann gets in contact with Hilda Kogut of the FBI in the US. She was like, I'm down. I'm finding these people for you and I'm shipping them back to you. And at this point in the documentary, you're literally on the edge of your seat because it's like you're hearing all the passion in these people's voices. The music has changed. It's a full-on, full-scale search. It's a manhunt for these two people. And I was on the edge of my seat. I wanted to know where these people were at, and nobody knew. But then, alas, as most criminals do, Anne messed up. She messed up, and she called one of the children. She reached out to him. And of course, adult at this point called my man and said, I think that Anne is in New York, on her property in New York. The FBI went to go pick them up very early in the morning. They bust in the door. Well, they didn't bust in the door. They knocked on the door. William answered. They said he did not try to fight. He didn't try to run. They didn't even really act surprised. It was said that Anne, the only thing she was worried about was her makeup and how she looked. And they cut to a reenactment of Lex DeMann in Australia finally getting the news that Ann and Bill had been arrested. And I have to tell you, I know I shed a couple tears. This man has been on this case for years and years and years, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call and it finally panned out. They finally were in custody. And in the reenactment, it shows how he broke down. And it was just, it wasn't heartbreaking, it was heartwarming because you could feel all the emotion. I had to give it to you, Rosie. You did it on that one. That was a good scene. Good scene. Now, their lawyers in the US fought hard to keep them in custody in the US, okay? But that all changed when Bill, one of his cellmates, was actually killed in front of him. So he said, no, sorry, I'm out. I'd rather go back to my country. I can't, no, get me out of the United States. It's too much. I got to go. Y'all killing people in custody and y'all will die. I can't stay here. And we need to go back. So they were extradited back to Australia, in which they were given bail. And of course they made bail, but they were told they had to report every single day. Now, all this time had passed where Ann and Bill were on the run. The kids, during this time, you have to understand, these children were growing up. They were becoming adults. They were coming into their own. The one child that jumped out of the window and ran down the road and escaped the cult of the family. She requested for Bill to walk her down the aisle and for Anne to be at her wedding. It's hard to think about that, but then she explained that Bill was the only father she knew. And in her mind, she actually thought that Anne was manipulating Bill and had gotten Bill in her clutches, and that Bill was really a good man. And you have to think, these children were all brainwashed. This is all they knew. So I can now back to the issue at hand. The sad part of Anne and Bill being extradited is that what happens is the country has to set up an extradition deal. And in that deal, you have to come up with certain terms. And those terms are what you have to stick to in order to continue to have custody of the criminals that are being extradited. So none of the child abuse was brought up in the trial or the case. That's the downside. You cannot extradite someone and then throw new charges on them or other charges on them after you've already set the deal. So the only charge that stuck was the one count of conspiracy to commit perjury. I got a drink on that one. And I need more beer. The Hamilton Burns, they pled guilty. And of course, no one would testify against them. I'm just going to throw this in here, throw this out there. At this point, they're showing old footage of the trial and everybody leaving the trial. And I have to say, Sexy Lexi and that stash of his is looking good. Looking good. The Burns received a $60,000 fine. No jail time. The judge took into account their age, their state of health, and the fact that they had received 3 months of jail time in the U.S. And it just doesn't seem okay that they get that with all the damage they caused and all the lives they touched. And you could tell that Lex DeMann, he felt cheated. You could tell through the whole thing that he felt cheated with the extradition deal, and he also felt cheated with this. And of course, this time it's not a reenactment. In his on-screen interview, he does break down. And yes, I cried with him because he's my man. I think they deserved more. We move forward to 2001. And unfortunately, Bill dies of kidney failure. He's buried in an unmarked grave. The reason for that is because of the sex motto, unseen, unheard, unknown. And that's why they are buried that way. He leaves all of his possessions, everything, to Anne. His biological children are not mentioned in his will at all. Everything went to Anne. One of the children that stood out to me was Dr. Sarah Moore. She did become a doctor, and she spent her life traveling and trying to make other people's lives better. And she just felt like that her cause and her reason for being here, for being alive, was to help other people. Now, after Bill passed, 60 Minutes wanted to do an interview with Dr. Sarah Moore, wanted to reunite her with Anne. And oh my God, it is the most horrible interview ever. It is Anne sitting there, and time has not been kind to Anne now. Anne is sitting there, and she is denouncing and denying any bad things that happened to the children. Dr. Sarah Moore, Sarah, is trying to hold them accountable for what happened, and they're having none of it. There's a man in the corner that is talking very loudly. He is not, he's a member, but he is just saying that the kids were paid, that nothing like that happened to them. They should be ashamed of themselves. And Anne is sitting there just kind of like, no, no, no. And it just looks like a typical Thanksgiving dinner. Just saying. After this, Anne Hamilton Byrne is diagnosed with dementia. At this point, her members start literally selling everything out from under her because of her mind. The documentary goes back to Lex DeMann and how he is, to this day, working to reunite families that have been displaced because of the cult of the family, and that it's his life's work. He is retired as of now, as of late, and he still receives emails and phone calls from people that are still missing loved ones, and he has taken upon the task of trying to reunite people. We cut to Roland. And Roland is the child that stood up for Will and Anne and threatened to harm members of government, members of parliament. Roland is meeting his biological family for the first time in his life, and you can tell it's a big moment, and they do really look like just like him. It's just a good moment. It's a good way to end the documentary. But pray tell, what happened to Anne? On June 13th, 2019, Anne Hamilton Byrne dies of dementia. She is 98 years old. And of course, she is in an unmarked grave. Because unseen, unheard, unknown. It's always sad when someone passes, and, especially with dementia, to go out and not know what's going on around you, not even be able or aware to be able to go back and apologize or to make amends. She didn't even have the luxury of doing that because dementia. She didn't even know what was going on. Which makes it sad. Now, my thoughts on the documentary. I liked the documentary. Did I love it? I loved the subject matter because I enjoy digging into things and really the psyche of people and how other humans treat other human beings. It's very interesting to me. So on that level, I enjoyed it. Now, Rosie Jones, I need you to work on sequencing. That's the only problem that I had with this the whole time. I am good at keeping up with things, but I could see where another person would be like, now what happened to that person? Why didn't I talk to that person anymore? So that's the only problem I have with it. Other than that, really good. Do I think it could have been done in maybe 2 episodes rather than 3? Yes, I do. But my heart goes out to every single person involved. I have hope for every human being. But anyway, keep your sunshine bubbles intact. Don't hurt nobody. Don't let nobody hurt you. Love you, mean it. Peace.